All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call to order the Regional Governance Board of the Southwest Vermont Regional Technical School District for our regular scheduled meeting Monday, December 19th, 2016. We have a quorum present, so we will proceed with the agenda. I want to welcome everyone for coming out this evening, this cold evening. And we'll start with the public comments. Do we have any public comments? All right, seeing the hearing of none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. The minutes for the RGB full board meeting, November 21st, 2016 are in the packet. It's also been emailed. I have a motion for that to be accepted. Moved by Ricky, seconded by Leon. Any comments or any concerns on the minutes of the meeting of November? All right. Hearing none, all those in favor of accepting the minutes as presented, please signify by raising your hand.
I accept online too.
Okay, thank you, John. That's unanimous, Barb. Also in our packet, we have payroll warrants number 11, 1018, number 12, and 1020. Can I have a motion to accept those?
So moved.
Moved by Ricky.
I'll second it, but you want to do all three of them at the same?
All the payroll, I'd like to
Okay.
do all at the same, yeah.
I'll second it then.
Okay. Any discussion on those? All those in favor of accepting the payroll warrants as presented, please signify by raising your hand.
I accept.
Thank you, John. And that's unanimous as well, Barb. Vendor warrants, number 1019 and 1021.
So moved. Second.
Ricky, seconded by Leon again. Any discussion, any questions on the vendor warrants? I did go through those in detail, and got all the questions I had answered earlier, so everything looks in order. All those in favor then accepting the vendor warrants, please signify by raising your hands on those.
I accept.
All right, that's unanimous. Thank you. The cash flow and the revenue and expense statements are presented as well. Committee reports. We had one committee meeting, and that was the big one, finance. So you're on, Ricky.
I'd like to turn it over to Mike Lauer for a presentation.
Okay.
Okay. Ricky, would you like me to recap our finance committee meeting and just launch right into the budget presentation?
That's probably a good way to do it.
Okay. So Stephanie and I are going to tag team the budget presentation. Just to give you a little background on the budget is we're proposing a budget this year that is a 0.58% increase over the total budget last year. Again, a 0.58% increase. So essentially, it's a flat budget from last year. We met with the finance committee twice and did three proposed budgets with differing effects on tuition rates, the total budget cost, et cetera. So up here on the screen, and also on the packets that you have, the FY17 approved budget was $3.437 million, and the FY18 proposed budget, which we called B, that's our B budget, is $3.457 million, so a 0.58 increase over last year. Stephanie, you want to?
The significant changes, actually there really aren't any significant changes between our budgets. We've included a $50,000 position for adult ed because we will know whether the current structure is working or not. We won't know until after this budget cycle is done. We also have included funds for a position for what could be a medical instructor to go to a satellite program in Arlington. But that's also something that we won't know whether we will have the ability to do until after the budget cycle is done. We've level funded or we've continued to fund our reserve funds with $60,000 for our leasehold improvement reserve fund and 20 for the equipment. We're still working on finishing the roof. We have about a section and a half left to go. So depending on what pricings for the roof are this year, I'm hoping that we can wrap it up, but it may be one more budget cycle.
Right. We've been very fortunate with the roof, with the prices that came in, being able to move further, faster with that. And just to dovetail on Stephanie's comments about the budget, there's only really two significant things that are different in the budget, and that is the $50,000 we've left in place for adult education in the event that the structure we proposed back in the fall doesn't work. I'm confident that's going to, but I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know. So we're leaving it in there as a buffer in case adult ed structure isn't working. The other is for a position to expand our medical professions program, both here on our campus as well as satellite campus at Arlington. Again, I think that's going to go for next year. Arlington, we've talked about it. There seems to be interest. There seems to be interest here. I just won't know for sure until we actually get started with student signups, and the budget process will long be over by then. So those are both really the only significant things in the budget that are different.
Jackie?
I'd like to congratulate you in coming very near last year's budget, and miracle.
It is, it's been a challenge, particularly seeing how we've level funded now for, I think this is the third year, or fairly close to level funding
Yeah.
now. For
Last year we cut, I believe it was over 130,000.
We did.
Yeah, we cut 130 last year. Okay, yeah.
Now, the one thing I didn't see in the budget is, and I know you brought it before us, but it having to do with the number of students, the FTEs.
Yep.
That is a change. That
Yes.
was-
So on the next slide here.
I'm sorry. Did I miss it in this slide?
No, it's not.
No, it's not in that one.
Just terrible how you guys did that to me.
You were just reading my mind, that's all.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it. Just a quick recap on FTEs. We're funded on a 6-semester rolling average. I'm oversimplifying this, but we've had some high semesters that have dropped off. We lost, spring of, fall of 13? So we look across here.
Yeah, if you look to the left, those were the two highest semesters, the 174 and the 179. That, if you remember back, was when we had at least 1.5, maybe 2 more programs than we have currently. So the downside with this funding structure sometimes is that while our sending schools had significant savings in those years because we actually, refunded the money that we didn't use for some of the positions that weren't filled, our FTE count takes a while to kind of even out after this. So right now we're just seeing a little bit more of a lag. It should even, I'm anticipating that it's going to even out probably in the 160, 165
Right.
range.
What I would like to point out is up there, if you look at spring of 16 of a FTE count of 139.8,
This one right here.
remember FTEs don't represent individual students. It's a conglomerate of minutes. So, for example, fall of 2016, 166 FTEs equals just short of 400 actual students in the building. It's all based on the number of minutes they sit in a seat. It's kind of archaic, but that's still the way we count them. So when people see these numbers, we think, 160 students. No, it's 166 FTEs, and that represents almost 400 students. So we've made a significant increase in our FTEs, both from fall of 15 and spring of 16. To make a jump of 139 FTEs to 166, that's a huge number. So we are on the upswing, but it's going to take a little time to level off. We have we're short at least 2 programs. I can think of engineering, had a huge number of students in it that we've picked up elsewhere. You've also lost communications technology, technical English, and also your computer technology and networking. So there's a significant number of, when you add them all up, it does equal quite a few students. But we are gaining despite not having those
We did the
programs
satellites.
existing.
When you offer a course in Arlington, those count as?
Yes. Yes, because they're actually our courses, we're just decentralizing them and taking them to the other schools. So,
I think that's a great outreach that you do. I think it's really important.
thank you.
Because, like you say, a half hour going, half hour, the kids are losing an hour and a half, 2 hours of schooling, whereas here they lose nothing. So it's a big attractive thing.
And I think part of the, what is bringing our FTEs up for this semester was our participation in Arlington.
Right, exactly. I mean, we're really essentially running two classes, both a modified version of pre-law and forensic science at Arlington High School. And those numbers are not insignificant when they add up to FTEs.
What do you foresee, Mike, as far as FTEs for next year?
Based on the trend, I think we're going to level out in the low 160s is probably where we're going to be at. I think a goal of 170 would be great. That'd be awesome. You know, you gotta remember, our spring semesters are always going to be lower, so it's hard to judge. That spring semester, I predict our spring of 17 coming up will probably be in the 140s. Is what I'm thinking. And the reasons for that are most of our intro classes run the first semester. Some run again in the second semester, but not all. So because it's based on the number of minutes a class runs, the FTE count goes down. So I would be happy to see us stay in the mid 160s going forward. That would be great.
The point I was trying to make, but it's a little bit difficult with the FTEs in the spring and the fall and all that stuff, though, is we live in the school business, and it seems like when we were bringing in, or when we had more pupils and we had room for them, our budgets were going out of sight. And then all of a sudden, we have this decrease in population, and everybody's saying, well, my gosh, your population went down by 10%, but the budget went up by 20. Why is that? My point is that our FTE is remaining flat or increasing a little bit, and we're being able to keep the budget at that same flat rate. We're not increasing,
Right.
even though. So I think that's kudos to you that we're not increasing that budget, even though we really increased the FTEs.
I think that over the last few years, we've really taken a hard look at the operations of the center and what the needs are of the center, and not in excess. I think we've been fairly conservative, and I think this is also a fairly conservative budget moving forward if the board adopts it this evening for next year. I think a 0.58 increase is very reasonable, considering the operations that we have.
Ken?
My thing right now, Mount Anthony has 915 youngsters. I was talking with the assistant superintendent. She was saying that in the early 2000s, there was 1,300 kids.
Oh, yeah.
And when the 8th grade comes up and the seniors graduate, they're going to be maybe about 875. So some of this is out of your control. I think it's so
Right.
good that you do the outreach to the other ones to make up for the loss that we have here. That's being creative is very important, and I can see you doing that, so that's good.
We've got some other good
Agreed.
news we'll share with you a little later on in the meeting, where we're reaching out even some more, so.
Well, I think that, if I may, I just think that serving communities where they are, especially in the catchment areas, when they're a little bit farther out, and somebody already talked about the time issues for students and so forth. I think that's key as well, that we're going to where the kids are rather than saying that the only place to get it is here.
This year.
Yeah, that's been our problem, John, with Manchester area and the Burton School. That's quite a haul every day for a student being on the road that amount of time.
Right.
So that's a reason why many don't choose to come down here. If we can get into that area the same as we're doing with Arlington, then maybe we'll
And
have some success there.
it's actually interesting, in the tech ed regs, it talks about the decentralization of career and technical education. They want us to go out and decentralize our operations, both for our daytime students and our adult population as well.
Will we be expanding to Arlington in the evening?
Yes,
Good.
She's already working on it.
Meg is already working on that. That's part of my
I've heard they
report
have
tonight.
a great program, especially a pottery program.
Okay.
So that's a little bit on the FTEs, just our history lesson on FTEs, I guess. Our sixth semester FTE average, Stephanie, I'll let you talk about these and the percentage changes.
So our sixth semester average last year was, or for this funding year, was 170. And so because we're dropping some higher semesters off, our estimated FTE count is just about 161. So it represents a 5.5% decrease in our FTEs.
But we need to build our budget
But
off of that 160.96 FTEs.
Right. So this is what I was talking about in terms of the lag, in terms, our budget is, we're funding for what we need at this moment, but we're still using calculations from 3 years ago, which just complicates it.
Which is very frustrating for me, to the way the state handles the funding of the centers like that, why they have to base it on 6 semesters.
I can understand it from a sending school, it allows them to plan more because, they wouldn't know in their current budget cycle. And maybe the 6 semesters allows it to spread out a little bit more, but if like right now, had to wait for enrollment, then the sending school would already have their budget set before they had to pay, before the tuition bills were due,
Yeah.
so. It makes it frustrating for us.
It's frustrating to build a budget around.
So do you want to talk about this, Mike, or do you?
Go ahead.
With our proposed budget being basically level funded, but because of the change in our FTE count, our tuition rate I'm anticipating that our tuition rate will increase by 5.64% for next year. And this is something that we discussed a fair amount in the Finance Committee, in terms of being very aware of the change in the percentage, but.
And again, because we're tied to the formula.
Right.
And we're losing the high-end years, the tuition is going to go up.
Is that comparable with other schools around the state, that tuition 15?
Is our tuition? Yes.
Yes, it's very comparable. They're different because it's all based on FTE counts, but they are comparable, yes, based on the formula. We're all fairly close to each other on tuition.
Yeah.
And then
So-
the statewide tuition, or I say tuition cost per pupil is like 18.5 or 18.9, isn't it? Second highest in the nation.
Yeah, I think for the secondary, for ed.
Yes, first, 1 through 12.
So that'll be our proposed announced tuition. It was $14,469, and it will be $15,286 if the board adopts the budget this evening. So that's the correlation. When we get the FTEs up, the tuition will drop, and it will. Last year, we focused solely on the tuition, number of keeping tuition
Right.
essentially flat last year.
Which is why we had to cut so much out of it, because our FTEs had dropped. Yeah.
Right. And so this year, we would have had to cut there's nowhere else to cut. And there's nothing else to cut out. We've cut every piece of excess that's in this budget out of it. And this is representing what we have for tonight, so.
So, that being said, I think everybody has a copy of the budget. I don't know if you want me to go through.
So-
Just one question here, on the first page there, daycare rental. You rent out that space for $150 a month? That basically, it says $1,800.
Yes, it's my understanding, it's part of the educational piece of it. It's our lab.
It's our lab.
It's our lab for
All
human,
our youngsters working in there?
Yes.
yeah, for
Yes.
human services.
Human
Yeah.
services, yes. Yeah. So what Stephanie put together, and there should be copies at everyone's seat, color copies, so it's easy to see, is our budget expenditures and our budget revenue for next year. The same thing that's up on the screen here. This is not the line by line budget. This is categories and programs and activities.
This is what we use for our annual report. as
Right,
well.
it's what we showed last year. It'll be our annual report, and it's what we bring forward to the board for you to look at this evening. It just isn't so many pages to pull through.
So what we're asking the board to approve for this year would be a budget of $3,457,114, which would represent the local and state revenue.
So I'd be so bold as to move it.
Second.
Okay, we have a move by Ricky and seconded by John to approve the figure of $457,114. Did you want to get into the expense distribution, the chart on that?
Sure, I could go over.
Sure.
I think for the public, I think it's a good idea that we could show that to them as well.
So out of our total expenditures, the amount we budget for our reserve fund is 2.2% of it. We budget a contingency of 2.3%. Our employees' benefits make up 17% of our budget. Grant expenditures, which are our Perkins grant and equipment grant, and a small grant for the adult education, makes up 5.5% of our expenditures. Our center-wide expenditures are 2.3. That includes toner and other. Our program expenditures are 28.7%, which includes our salaries for the program teachers. So the way that we break down each category on this paper is by program. Our student services make up 7.2%. Our IT is 4.4%. General school administration is 1.3%. Our overall school administration is 11.5%, and that would be the superintendent, the assistant superintendent, or the assistant director, as well as, one thing to highlight with this is it does include other professional development for all the staff and the teachers. I think last year was over $42,000.
Which is a contractual requirement.
Travel and classes and things like that. Business services, which would be the business office, is 5.5%. Maintenance is 9.8%. Safety is 0.8%, and our transportation is 1.5%.
Is what we paid to Mount Anthony broken out into all of those?
What we pay to Mount Anthony for this year is in maintenance.
It's in maintenance.
9.8%.
We
Okay.
now have the flat fee, so that is built in. There was a time where it was spread out through a variety of different functions,
Right.
but now.
Okay. All right. Any questions or any comments?
I just like the way it's spread out, because most, you take salaries and benefits, you're talking 75%.
Yes.
And here, it's, a little bit for everybody, but not just,
Right.
it's nice. Thank you, nice job.
All right. If there's no more comments or any other questions or concerns, let's have a vote on next year's budget. All those in favor of the budget as presented, would you please signify by raising your hand?
I agree too.
Okay, that's unanimous, Barb. So we will go ahead and we will, you'll present
Letourneau
this.
agrees too.
Oh, okay, Ed, I didn't know you were there. Thank you. Yep.
Well, this is good, because in this day and age with medical costs and salary increases, to keep it to such a low increase, it's really a feather in our hat.
Thank you, Ken. I want to thank the Finance Committee and the two members here of the hard work they put into this, and Meg as well. She's not here this evening. She's had some oral surgery, but they did a fine job, a real fine job. And I'm happy to see that we can now present this to the public, to the voters, and feel confident that we've got a good budget to present to them, a fair budget. All right. get back into my agenda.
Thanks, Steph.
All right,
Announcement tuition.
announced tuition.
Well, the SU budget is up 2.2 million.
I think we're going to wait until next month on that. Is that correct?
We are, I was getting ahead of myself. The state hasn't released the instructions yet, so I think I'll wait until they.
So we have to wait until next month on that action item, all right. The Hfcc Adult Education Account Closure. We used to have an account with the Heritage Credit Union. Or I guess we still have an account with the Heritage Credit Union, which was used for adult education. But since we've moved the adult education program now under the auspices of our own accounting system, this account's no longer needed. So Stephanie's recommending that we close this account, and it requires action on the board to do that. So if you want to give any more detail on that stuff.
Essentially, this is an account that was established before adult education and program revenue accounts were under the treasurer's responsibility, and because what I've been doing for the last several years is moving everything under her responsibility as it should be. This account, once we cut the check out of it, will no longer, to hand it to her to put into our operating account, will no longer need, and Heritage needs a board authorization in order to close the account once we've moved the money.
I'll make the motion that we authorize to close it.
I have a second, seconded by Ken. Okay, any comments or questions on that? Let's vote on that, and all in favor of closing this account with the credit union? All right.
I agree.
All right, John agrees, how about Ed?
Paterno approves.
Okay, we're unanimous on that as well. We have every year an internal control checklist that comes from the state that we have to approve. We have a copy of it here. It's basically a bunch of questionnaires that we have to answer to the state.
You just have to acknowledge that you've received it and go over it. The Vermont State Auditor has required that municipalities and schools have an internal checklist that they receive from their superintendent or the school before the end of the year. So what we've put in is the superintendent says answer the questions, and it's there for your review to see what our internal controls are.
I have to provide it to you as a superintendent. It's my questionnaire, if you will, but you have to see it, that you acknowledge that I
And then you have
reviewed it
to sign it after
and
you
sign
receive
off on it.
it. Just one person.
Everyone to see, or?
We can, there's a copy in the Dropbox. It is very small
It is.
print.
It is.
Yeah, it is in the Dropbox then, all right.
What's it called?
That should be under
It's
action
under,
items.
what? Is it business office?
It's under financial management redacted.
But it's on the business office documents. Is that yours, or it's on the superintendent? I
It's
forgot
under
which one.
action items.
Okay, I forgot which one I had.
There are no significant changes on it from last year. Just one.
Can I have a motion then to accept the financial management questionnaire as presented?
So moved.
Moved by Ricky,
Second it.
seconded by Leah.
It's just small.
You want-
Any questions or concerns?
You saw it.
Keep
All
it
those-
small so you can't read it.
Yeah, I do.
All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand on those. Okay,
I agree.
all right. Ed, you're all set?
Approves.
Okay, thank you. Just need to sign it off.
Yep.
There you go, Mike. Nominations. Apparently, we don't have any this evening. We are in the progress of interviewing some candidates for the business clerk position, and by next month, we should have a nomination. Yep.
Absolutely.
I think they've had something like 26 applicants for that position. And we're down to the final 3 that they'll be interviewing this week. Superintendent's report.
Okay, I've got a bunch to report on to you this evening. I'm going to start with just a slideshow, if you will, of the activities of the month. I know I always say go to our Facebook page and take a look at it. This is in the Dropbox, so I just try to do a quick summary here of activities. Again, not all activities, just some of what we've done since the last board meeting. Here's Human Services students. Purchase gifts for 3 Spirit of Sharing families, putting in practice their knowledge of age-appropriate gifts and staying within the budget. In our forestry program, we had a former graduate come back from Paul Smith's and talk about timber cruising, which is identifying wood on the lot, and what materials to come off of it. At the last board meeting, might have been the previous board meeting, we voted on Solus Edge scanner kit for our automotive program. A couple photos here. This is a multimeter certification training kit. It's a large toolkit that students can leave with industry certifications from Snap-on with the latest multimeter. This is a picture of the Solus Edge scanner training kit we just received last week. It's not even out of the box yet, but it is a kit, I believe, of 16 actually scanners, so that every student can have hands-on, and it comes with an industry certification. And the instructor actually has to go and be certified by Snap-on at a special training program in order to train the students how to use these. So that is scheduled to come up. So I'd like to show you what you're voting on each month to see what's going on in our programs. I'm going to talk about Student of the Month a little bit later, Sam Irion from Medical Professions. We'll get to that. Our law enforcement program, you may have seen this in the Bennington banner, took a trip out to Boston to the U.S. Coast Guard Cutter Spencer, commanded by Peter Niles. They learned about maritime law enforcement. They spent the day on the ship. They arranged for lunch out there and a tour of the facility. So that was on the coldest day we've had so far out in Boston. They enjoyed it. Also in our manufacturing, our equipment grant went to a comparator that is now in, and it's being used by the students and the instructor in the classroom. Also, one of the new email machines in manufacturing has been delivered. We're having quite a time moving it to where it needs to be, but it's been delivered. I also can tell you that the large Haas milling machines are scheduled to be on site, I believe this week, maybe next. They are close by. They just need to come here and get the old ones out and bring the new ones in. The loading dock we have is less than ideal. It's not the right height for a tractor trailer or a delivery truck, so we're having a little bit of difficulties in getting that in, but we will. So those are coming in. I hope at the end of the school year to bring you back to the manufacturing lab that we toured a couple months ago to show you the progress and the updates that have happened through the school year, including all the new machinery in place as Adam continues to improve and expand that program. Also, as you probably know, we worked at the Molly Stark Outdoor Classroom last year, back in the fall and this fall as well, building benches and picnic tables and clearing off. The Building Trades program is now working on the outdoor classroom sign that's going to hang over the entranceway to that. Building Trades has lots of projects going on. This is just one of many. It's the Whispering Woods Learning over at Molly Stark. I want to show that to you. Also, this year's woodworking instruction class, as you know, you should know, we changed the structure a little bit of the program to woodworking and cabinet making as another way to attract students into the intro program. So every student this semester in Introduction to Woodworking made a very nice coffee table with slide drawers in it. This is one of the completed units. One of the units had had a log top on it. They're very unique. So I think there's 18 students in that program that are all building these.
Your kids keep those?
Yes, yes, yep. Just a little plug for culinary. Every Friday, generally every Friday, there is a culinary luncheon at $7. You can see kind of, it's different every week. This was from December 9th. The roasted pear, candied pecan salad, etc. It's a good deal at $7. This past week, I think we had an all-time record. How many did we serve?
87. By the time I went to get my ticket, they were sold out.
We sold it out on Friday. But as you can see, the menu was lobster bisque, prime rib, and garlic mashed potato.
They sold out.
Nobody told me.
Yeah, where do these customers come from? Are they just people off the street, or?
There are a lot of teachers and a lot of folks in the community.
There are.
They have a following of the culinary program.
But you never I never see it advertised anywhere.
It's on our Facebook.
But I only put it out on Facebook.
Evidently, you don't have to.
And it's,
I have a following of it about 3 times a day.
and it's we post it internally. It goes to all campus, all the faculty. It's not open for students. It's just for faculty. And a lot of folks from the outside, a lot of students' parents come in and eat.
That's good.
But yeah, we sold out this Friday.
But we're really not in business to compete with the local
Doesn't a
restaurants.
teacher have to pay, I think, $3.50 if they eat in a regular cafeteria over chicken
Yes.
nuggets? And here they get prime rib?
So that's, again, it's generally every Friday that we have that. Check out our Facebook page, it's where we post it for the public, but again, it's $7, it's a good deal. And every week it's different. It's never the same menu twice, but this past week was a real winner, I have to tell you. Prime rib was excellent.
Nice.
The next thing I'd like to talk about is I want to recognize the Student of the Month. We did not have one for November, so I want to read this to you as the best I can do there. We created a Student of the Month last year. The Southwest Vermont CDC hopes to celebrate individual achievement by creating a culture of learning that values academic success as well as elevates awareness of student contributions to the community at large. A Southwest CDC teacher, a staff member, guidance counselor may nominate a Student of the Month based on any of the following criteria: marked improvement in grades, exemplary attendance, cooperation, overall achievement, consideration to others, academic curiosity, outstanding attitude, and community involvement. And the December Student of the Month is Sam Urion. Sam comes to class each day ready and excited to learn. He voluntarily goes above and beyond what we're learning in class, looking up medical information such as articles and case studies, and makes insightful connections between what he has read and learned in class. He's always prepared, helpful to both peers and teacher, and contributes greatly to the class atmosphere with his contributions at class discussions. Sam is also a member of the Arlington Rescue Squad. So the Student of the Month, as a reminder, receives a certificate of commendation, their name and photo displayed in the hallway, mentioned here also at our board meeting, our school website and Facebook, and luncheon for 2 at Littletown Bistro. Sam took lunch with me on Friday for the prime rib. It was a good choice. So congratulations to Sam Urion as Student of the Month. A couple more things I have for you. Jim mentioned us continuing to expand our outreach to other communities. Just this past Friday, I met with representatives from the Hoosick Falls School District, with the principal, the director of curriculum instruction, and 2 guidance counselors who spent the afternoon here on Friday with us, touring the facility and showing a real interest in wanting to send students again to the CDC. Stephanie and I are working with the state. They're fairly specific on how we have to address what it costs for tuition. There are 2 other schools in Vermont that take students from out of state, primarily the Hartford Technical Center and the Springfield Tech Center, with students from New Hampshire. And so we're working with the prescribed formula to come up with what the tuition costs for a student to come from out of state. The state's fairly specific on it, but we're trying to get some final guidance on it. So it was a great meeting with great follow-up. I'm waiting for an appointment with the superintendent and the business manager in Hoosick Falls. It's going to be our next step to talk about the cost and for students starting here in the fall. I don't know how many it'll be in the fall.
Generally speaking, it would be more than for a Vermont student.
Yes. Generally speaking, out-of-state tuition. Yes, it's complicated. It's a little bit more. There's a formula that's a mile and a half long.
Essentially, the Vermont, I mean, the short of it is that our tuition is made up of 3 components. One is what the sending school writes a check for. One is the on-behalf payment that comes from the state of Vermont to us that would have been sent to the Vermont district. And the other is a grant, which is 35% of the on-behalf payment. And that grant is a tuition reduction grant that is provided by the state. So what we're finding is that the out-of-state school would have to pay the full 3 pieces, but we're waiting for some guidance just to make sure that
That'd be a hefty sum.
the grant is about $3,000. So it's probably a difference of about $3,000.
About a $3,000 difference.
But I'm looking for confirmation from our state before.
There's not a lot of guidance on it. I mean,
Right.
there are some specific statutes that address the out-of-state students, and there's tech ed regs that address how we come up with the
Maybe
formula.
they should have a reciprocity thing instead.
So it was a great meeting, and I hope that we can continue to talk. It's been a long time since Hoosick Falls has sent students to the CDC. I think over 10 years. They're eager to come back. We're eager to have them. It only makes a lot of sense. They're just a few miles down the road, and their closest technical center is over 40 minutes away. So it only makes sense to make this work. So I hope to bring you continued good news on that, if not each month in the following months. On behalf of Meg tonight, who could not be here, I did want to talk about, she has been meeting with several former instructors in our adult education program, including those from Arlington High School who, in the Arlington area, who are going to teach classes not only here, but in the North Shire as well. And then there's some computer classes and also some enrichment courses that Meg is working on. We also do have an offer in Manchester. We talked about this before, but the Manchester Library has offered us their space, both for our adult and continuing education program, as well as if we want to expand in the North Shire for our daytime programs as a classroom space, if we need it. We can only grow so much, so a little bit at a time. My last thing, I also had a very promising meeting today, again with Southern Vermont College, as we continue our partnerships with the community of aligning and connecting some of our programs with some of the programs at Southern Vermont College. For example, they're starting a new human services program at Hfcc. We have a vibrant human services program here. How can they work together? We have a great criminal justice program here. They have one at Southern Vermont College. There's some real natural connections that we can make of how we can assist Hfcc and how Hfcc can assist our students. We've had several meetings, actually. We've toured Hfcc. Many of the folks at Hfcc have been here and spent time looking at our classroom space, talking to our teachers, talking to us about how we can better collaborate with our local colleges. So, a lot of outreach that we're working on to help the students ultimately at the end of the day. That's all I have.
Thanks, Mike. So we've got a lot of good news tonight. We have a very good budget, very responsible budget. We have increased enrollments in our FTEs. We have new programs that are going to be surfacing. And I want to thank again the administration for the hard work they've been doing. We're increasing our adult ed program. I also have some good news to report. As you recall, last month, Susan Summer came in from Habitat for Humanities, and we had some conflicts over the building trade students going there and working on the site without some type of a contract or agreement. And I want to thank Stephanie and Mike again for the amount of time and hours they put into this, but they did work with the attorneys, with Habitat for Humanity, and they've come together and they've drawn up an agreement, a construction agreement that really is what we needed to begin with, a good document that explains the duties, the responsibilities, and goes over the insurance, et cetera. and to the mutual understanding and agreement of both parties. So we are ready to send our building trade students to start building a Habitat for Humanity's house that will soon take place.
Very good.
I want to again thank you for
Thanks, guys.
the hard work you did on this, because it's really going to pay off for our students, I'm sure.
It's going to be a great project.
Great project for them. You'll see them build a complete house from the ground up to finish. And that's all that I have to report. Is there any other business this evening from the board?
Just kind of curious about January, what we got for dates coming up.
Martin Luther King Day is on the 16th. If you met on the 23rd, you would be able to warn the ballot and have your regular meeting. So you remember how some years you have to have 2 meetings in order to
Right.
one? You could approve and warn the ballot on the 23rd of January, and it would be within our time frame.
We have that tuition set that night, you think?
Yep, the tuition already, yeah.
You could have the regular board meeting, warn the ballot, the tuition, everything.
Right,
should be-
everything
be
should
ready to
be-
go on the 23rd.
What other meetings might we have? Or need? Anything else required in
I
January?
don't think so.
And then, like last year, we decided that since we went crazy in January, we decided to take February off, is that correct? Or we don't know that yet?
We did not meet in February.
I believe we had a joint meeting with the town and SVSU last year. I mean, it's not the same, our formal meeting, but we did meet in, I believe it was in February, where we
Yeah.
had the budget finance meeting.
The presentation.
Yeah, the presentation, that was pretty much it.
They're still planning that.
Yeah,
Yeah, the BSD and the town.
in the
Yes.
town, in the Mount Anthony.
And I spoke
Right.
with Renee about it, so
Right.
that we'll be coordinating with them.
Yeah, there was no regular meeting last February, and I
What date is that?
The joint
There's no
meeting,
date
we
set
don't
yet.
have.
That hasn't been set yet. But let's,
we'll see what happens on the 23rd.
I'd like to make sure that we are good for the 23rd with everybody here, so that we can move the meeting then date from the 16th to the 23rd. Everybody in agreement to that, same time,
I am.
7 o'clock?
Yep.
All right.
The 23rd, the fourth Monday, that would be the fourth Monday.
It'll be the fourth Monday in January. All right. All right.
And I personally want to say kudos to Sandy. She's always makes sure I'm emailed. I think she does everybody else too, but quite frankly, the way I go around some days, I'm not sure what day it is. So I appreciate her always sending those reminders out.
Yeah, that's a good job.
I'll relay that on to Sandy. She keeps us on
Any
our
other comments? Can I have a motion then to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
Moved by Rick and then seconded by Leon. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks for coming out this evening, folks, and everybody have a happy holiday, safe, happy holiday.
You too.
Really short meeting.